Great, our invasion is picking up speed now, and we're going to actually engage in battle. So yes, we're progressing well down this road of desirable, feasible, and viable, and we have this, if we can get something like this in about that much time for about that much money, and the response from the investors and our fellow folks was, absolutely, go for it. So let's kick off. Where do we start? We've got our risk-based angle of attack, and basically what this is about is in our we've got this inch-deep, mile-wide view of the solution, and where should we start painting by numbers first? Where should we start completing this painting of ours? And talking about painting, let's look at how someone does, painting or drawing. So how it starts is we create a rough outline. That was our inch-deep, mile-wide. And now that we have a rough outline, we can start filling in more detail, but we don't finish the perfect eye and then do the next perfect eye. We put more detail, then touch the eye up a bit more, then the hair and so forth. So we add more detail and more detail and more detail as we go. But it's not like we just put an outline and then we finish the one eye, then the other eye, then the perfect mouth, the perfect nose and so forth. No, we outline, do some of the eyes, some of the nose, mouth, neck, hair and so forth. Do some more, add more detail, add more detail. So what this basically means is, in our world of innovation, is if we're looking at a risk-based angle of attack, we don't start with the top right-hand feature, the most important, most risky feature, and then finish it in its entirety. We understand where the risk is inside of it. Where is the important critical piece which we're also concerned about and scared of? And we only take that piece and get to grips with it. And once we have it under control, we might leave it until later. So this is like painting or drawing enough of the eye. And because we've done that, we can now start thinking about specifically what the hair looks like a bit more, and the jawline and everything else. And then we might come back to the eye later on. But so we don't do it, fully, piece by piece. We tackle it incrementally on a risk-based way. So basically what it means in terms of our 2-week iterations is we have our feature backlog, and because we're going to start top right-hand corner, we take those ones and we break them up into more detail. What is the specific portions of this thing? And then which ones are the ones we're really concerned about? And the risk, again, that we're thinking of here is both business risk, maybe some compliance issues, maybe some redefinition of a product, some pricing decisions that may have to be made, worrying about cannibalization of existing revenue, or maybe upsetting an existing channel, whatever the case may be. What are the kind of business risks, together with complexity and also, of course, effort? So we get together and we start addressing some of these initial risks, and especially in terms of business risk. These are often the ones that I tackle first. Once we've sort of taken these higher risk items, broken them down, and understand what specifically are the questions we need answered here, we can get our product management folks together, sales, whatever the case may be, to say, these are some critical questions and concerns about business risk. And we need to probably address those before we start worrying too much about, is this thing technically possible or whatever. We need to get the green light on some of these key business risks that we are facing. And if we're given the green light on that, well, now we can start really thinking about, is this thing technically feasible? What might the design look like, the process, user experience, all these kind of, these aspects. So once we've done that, we know we have these 2-week iterations. And in our first iteration, we want to start tackling these highest risk elements. And part of our first iteration may have been these initial business discussions, or product management discussions, whatever the terminology you wish to use. So, and then we start. In the first 2-week iteration, we've broken them down. We've tackled the portions, the sub-features that we're going to focus on now. And we learn from them. After the first 2 weeks, we decide, was it feasible? Did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? Is this thing possible? Are we getting there? Did we solve these things? And depending on that, we decide, okay, now what is next? We break down now the remaining part of our backlog into the next pieces that we want to tackle. And so then we start tackling them in the next iteration. So it's an incremental, iterative approach to working our way through this feature backlog, same kind of way that someone would do a painting or a kind of a drawing. So we're exploring the solution space in a risk-focused manner. And basically, it's a combination of these two kind of things. This is how I think of this. So at the top line over here, we've got product usability process risk. How is it going to work? What sequences is it going to be? What is the user experience like? And you're doing things like user journeys and wireframes and process maps and maybe some designs and so forth. And we normally start with that. And the initial workshops we had about agreeing, what the MVP is and what the invasion plan is like, that is starting to really look at product and process and how things are going to fit together, especially if you do a user story mapping approach. So you've done enough of that to start getting a view about what are the technically complex and scary things we're going to have to create to be able to enable this user experience. So once we've done enough of the user experience, that enables us to identify the technically complex and scary things. And then we can start addressing them in 1 or 2 iterations and getting them under control. And once we've done more of that, we can now be more certain about this process probably going to work. So we can get into more detail about the user experience and turn our wireframes maybe into a bit more specific designs and so forth. And that means we're going to confirm more of the technical aspects. And this continues until we've basically done enough of the technical underlying capability, as well as now understanding enough about the really process aspects and the user experience aspects, that when we bring these two together and they merge, we're basically getting to the point where we're starting to get our walking skeleton together. So we're sort of, putting this thing together, this golden thread that runs through it, enough technical scaffolding for us to be actually to put this thing together and start actually experimenting with it. And now we can start thinking of adding, the unhappy paths or other option channels or different kind of aspects, but we're getting this thing under control now. And basically what it means is we've progressed our way through enough of the top right-hand high-risk, high-value items to feel comfortable that we've gotten this thing under control. And it's doable, it's feasible, it's going to work, but there's just more work now, just more effort. And remember the drawing about the amplitude of risk. We're getting now to the point where we've got it under control. It's okay. It's just more work now. Okay. And we continue with the work. And at this point in time, it's more about, should we put this feature in or not, and how much of it should we put in, just to try and get to the 6-month or 5.5-month goal and the budget goal. Trying to be careful about what is in and what is out, and trying to make this time frame. But this is already a good space to be in. And we continue our work through until we can launch our MVP. Now, there's a couple of things that are going on in addition to these sort of innovation, experimenting kind of things. And that is, if we're going to launch our MVP, it's going to go into a market. We need to get things together. Maybe training needs to occur. We need to get operational staff together, or whatever the case may be. But we don't want to start with that right up front, because we don't even know if this thing is going to be possible. So what we do is we start with this kind of approach where we take the thumbs-up view on how much money and about how much time is going to be required. Then we look at launch. What roughly is the launch date that we're looking at? So let's say somewhere 6 months from now roughly is probably our launch date. We're aiming towards that. Then we work backwards. So not everything we're going to be doing is innovation. Not everything is core concept to cash aspects. Not all of it is non-standard work, things we've never done before. A lot of what it is logistical aspects. We need to employ staff. We need to get a marketing campaign together. We need to do training. We need to do book media, whatever the case may be, order servers or whatever the case may be. So what we do is we say, okay, if we're going to launch roughly 6 months from now, what is the time frame needed to be able to execute these logistical things? Okay, so we work backwards and say, well, in our organization, you need to order servers 4 or 5 months before you need them. Or even if it's in the cloud, just to go through the financial aspects of getting machines approved is maybe a lot harder than the actual innovation itself, in which I've seen this in a number of organizations, trust me. So you need to look at the last responsible moment. When do we need to start with this logistical task, so that by the time we get to the end of the 6-month innovation process, we can have them under control. And as you see there, you don't really probably want to start with some of these logistical aspects until you've gotten through your initial high-risk, high-value items and you've got your walking skeleton sort of under control. Once you have that in place, then you can now really start thinking about doing some of these logistical things, about getting deals in place and distribution or staff or whatever the case may be to roll out the solution into the real space. maybe sending out launch invites and media buys and so forth. So many of these logistical aspects have a time frame associated to them. So if we need to take a decision about the media buys at this latest point in time, because it takes us 4 weeks or whatever the case may be to secure those media slots. And so you have a regular review between the folks doing your core innovation and your sort of logistical sequenced plan. Where are the points that we need to interface, and where do we roughly want to be sure that we can kick off this part of the logistical aspect based upon the progress of our innovation focus. Great. So we're going to talk now a bit more in detail about executing these specific battles. But we're really making good progress now in terms of feasible and viable, and tackling these higher risk elements first. Of course, when we launch, we're into the next phase of the solution, which is we've done it, but now we need to measure in the marketplace whether it is going to be successful based upon those criteria the metrics that we agreed, and hopefully quite some leading metrics as well as a few lagging metrics to determine whether we should continue with MVP 2 based upon the success of MVP 1. So great, let's just review briefly application of military strategy and tactics about how we're invading the future effectively. A big part of what we've done is simplicity again. We've got this high-level risk-based angle of attack plan, and we're doing it, breaking it down incrementally, communicating simple goals with the team, and the mission at any point is clear. This 2-week iteration, this 2-week iteration, this 2-week iteration. We'll go into more detail in that in the next lesson, but you can see how we're applying the principle of simplicity, and therefore enabling economy of force, massive force, and so forth. We're also having unity of command, because the team and product management and so forth are involved. That every 2 weeks, what should we do next, and why, and where's the risk, and whatever. So you've got an active group of self-organizing people working towards achieving success in this invasion by together planning each battle as we progress. But we'll cover more about that. We're getting command and control in place, because we're setting up our structures to iterate from week to 2 week to 2 week to 2 week iteration, reviewing how things go, deciding where to go next based upon that. So we're having our command and control structures, we're getting that into place, but we'll cover more detail on that. And importantly, we'll also be able to maneuver. Why are we able to maneuver? Why are we setting ourselves up for maneuvering well? Well, remember the risk-based angle of attack plan. Top right-hand corner, bottom right-hand corner down to the bottom left-hand corner, that angle of attack. We're attacking it incrementally. And we're doing just enough of what needs to be done next to tackle it and get under control, or move left or move right. Let's say we didn't work like that. So let's say we said, instead of doing it incrementally, top right-hand, bottom right-hand, and out down to the left, let's rather say we should specify requirements and design and all the aspects of the solution for the entire space up front before we start doing anything. Not only that, we want to have the architecture defined and all the engineering aspects before we start doing anything. Another way to think of this is we would be tackling all the low-risk items, all the low-hanging fruit, the highly valuable items at, let's just go back to this, there we go. So we'd be having all these low-risk items, making great progress. The high-value, easy items, we've done them, yippee, yay. And not only that, we're now starting to do even the low-risk, less valuable items. So we're showing fantastic progress. And then we try the top right-hand corner, and suddenly we realize we're up the creek without a paddle. And at this point in time, maybe a lot of your budget is gone. There's great frustration. A lot of people have ordered logistical aspects and so forth, and you're in big trouble now. And your ability to maneuver is not so great. Everyone is stressed out. It's bad news. So we don't want to be in this situation. And that is why we tackle things incrementally, so that we can adapt after every 2-week iteration period, so we give ourselves maximum maneuverability based upon what is happening as we're invading this complex future. So great stuff. I enjoyed this lesson with you, and catch you in the next one.